Welcome back to Born SuperHuman. So today I got an incredible guest with us that's going to share life-changing stories with you. So from rags to riches, really, but then understanding what the purpose of life really is. You're going to hear some incredible stories, understand what it takes to become a champion, and then what unleashes in life when we find out who we really are. So with that being said, I want to introduce you to Yura Movsisyan.
The night before, I slept and I had a really vivid, in my dream, I scored a goal against Italy the night before. So I woke up the next day, the day of the game, I woke up and once I realized it was a dream, it ruined my day, literally ruined my day. I was like, oh my God, imagine I had scored against Italy. Imagine wow, scoring against world champions. The game starts 4 minutes into the game. I score a goal against Italy. And when you go back, and you guys could go back and look at my celebration of the goal, after I score a goal, for a moment, I'm just walking like this, and I'm trying to see if this was a dream or not. If this was, am I going to wake up from this dream again? And then the minute one of the players just jumps on my head, I realized, no, this was real. I would tell the opposing defenders, I would shake their hand and I would tell them, hey, good luck, with this big smile, and they probably thought I was like a human rights activist or something, like telling them. And then the minute I would get a reaction from them, like, oh, thank you, I would tell them, listen, I'm going to ruin your day today. Second half starts 0-0, second half starts, I score 1-0. So we ended up winning the game 4-0 in Slovakia, which was crazy. Game ends, they run off the field, and we're in the locker room celebrating. And then, and I'm sitting behind the door, and Martin Shkrtel, he comes into our locker room, opens the door. He's like, "Where's Movsisyan?" And he walked into like 40 Armenians. What do you think is gonna happen? Yeah, I mean, as an Armenian, in 1915, 1.6 million Armenians were killed by the Ottoman Turks. And, any Armenian, it's part of our history. It's a sad part of our history. A lot of our land was lost at that time, to the Ottoman Empire. But as a person, as an Armenian, a child growing up, you always hear about it. It's way of life for you. It's always, you're in the mentality of, other genocides have happened and people have recognized it. Why not ours? Why? What is it that ours is different? All we wanted was recognition. Yeah. So Barack Obama, before he was elected, he promised Armenians that he would recognize the genocide, and he hadn't. Since he was president. And then when I went to the White House, I asked the question. I said, listen, you promised us to recognize the genocide. What happened? That was an opportunity for me, as I was speaking there, just to, throw it out there. And I was told, you're a soccer player, stick to soccer, don't get into politics. Early 2000, I was actually shot in front of my house. And the bullet grazed me here and here, and it missed me by that much. Not many people know this. So you go through these dark days, and I went through very dark days. I went through, really dark days. God put me on a mission to become Yura Movsisyan. Becoming Yura Movsisyan, the soccer player, is just a tool for me in my mission in life.
I'm Dan Metcalfe. Thank you for tuning into the Born SuperHuman podcast. I'm so proud of the guests and stories that we bring to you, and I know that you'll enjoy what we have ahead. Please like, subscribe, and follow. It really makes a huge difference in our ability to continue these conversations being brought to you. And if you feel the passion behind Born SuperHuman, please share it with your friends and family and leave a comment. I read every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to Born SuperHuman. So today I got an incredible guest with us that's going to share life-changing stories with you. So from rags to riches, really, but then understanding what the purpose of life really is. You're going to hear some incredible stories, understand what it takes to become a champion, and then what unleashes in life when we find out who we really are. So, with that being said, I want to introduce you to Yura Movsisyan.
Hey Dan, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, it's
Great to
good to
be here. Good to see you too.
and I got to be honest right from the start, Yura and I have had a rather coach player relationship for many, many years. So we're going to delve into some of the things that we went through with me being his coach and then Yura's journey into the world of professional soccer. So,
One of the first coaches, sorry to cut you off, but this is very important, Dan. One of the first coaches that really gave me a chance and believed in me. Dad, we need to, that I always say. So thank you.
thank you very much for that. It's we've got some great stories we could share, but today it's about you. So before we get started on your incredible journey, tell me about you as a kid growing up. What was your life like? Where did that character get built that took you to the top?
Well, I mean, being an Armenian kid and then moving to the US when I was 12 years old, I think all of that came from my family, from my parents. And you've known my parents for over 20 years now. So you understand when I say it, but also going through difficulties. That's how you build character. Not having much, having to work for everything. When we got to the US, my first year, there was no soccer. So what do? We had to work at a supermarket. So in a sense, that's how you build character. That's how you understand what to value, what's important, and what's not important. So I think that character definitely comes from, my background, my parents, and just people closest to me, the ones that supported me, family, friends, relatives that were here that supported us, nonstop. So, and that's how you kind of grow that character of, you know what, I have no other way. I have to do it. I have to do it for them. I have to do it for myself, but mostly, I have to do everything so I could give my parents a better life, my family a better life. So, with that chip on your shoulder, you can achieve anything.
So, did you always know that you wanted to be a footballer? Was that something that came later, or was that always your vision?
No, always, always. It was always in the family. It was always, my father, played himself, loved it, So ever since I can remember, it was always football. It was always soccer, Um, and then once we got to the US, those opportunities just opened up. Those opportunities really opened up, and um, with every opportunity I got, I basically, took full advantage of it and didn't really, try to cut corners. I just went full force.
So, how did you get into football, soccer when you first got to the US? Was it Sunday league teams? Was it your own age? Because I know often when you come in as an immigrant, you'll play in any game you can play, or age was not relative. You just got out and played. What was your
Yeah.
experience?
So when we got to the US, there was no soccer. We didn't know any soccer. And mind you, this is 2000, um, early 2001. So there's no soccer clubs like today. So for the first year, we couldn't find any soccer team to play on. And, we started, me and Moses, my older brother, we started working at a supermarket just to support my family, financially. And then about a year later, one of my dad's friends came up to him and said, listen, there's a soccer team. Your kids can play. And so that decision of, okay, me and Moses, who gets to play? Who gets to work, who has to work, who has to play? And that was a decision, obviously, difficult for any parent to make, to say, okay, you play, you work, you continue. And one of us had to support. So at that time, Moses actually basically decided, and he said, you know what, Yura can play, I'll continue working. And Moses was just as good, even maybe better than me in soccer. but he made that decision to let me continue playing, and then he will continue working and supporting the family. So that was a team called Lazio, FC Lazio. You might remember with Cruz. Cruz Cruz was my coach, and then I played there, I believe, a year, and from there I went to Flyers FC, and that was with Rafa Moran. I coached there, and then I believe I played there, if I'm not mistaken, a couple years or a year, and then from there I went to Arsenal, and yeah, and the rest is after Arsenal. The rest is history. So that was kind of the process.
How did Moses giving up his chance to play to give you, how much did that fuel you?
And that was, you know, um, as a kid, you don't really comprehend that decision that was made. But to understand that, early on when I said, when you're going through these difficulties, you have that extra chip on your shoulders to want to do it for them, for your parents, for your family, to give them a better life, to fight for it and give them a better life. And that definitely was my fuel to want to make it, to have to make it. It wasn't a choice for me. I didn't look at it as a choice. I looked at it as I have to do it. There's no other way. And if you remember, and I'm sure you've done that plenty of times with, younger groups, younger players of yours, when you would sit them down and you would ask them, what do you want to become? And each kid gets to answer that question. And I remember every time, especially at Flyers, I remember we had like these professional coaches, other coaches come in and ask everybody what you want to do. And everybody would say, I want to go to this college. I want to go to that college. I want to go to this college. I was probably the only one that, with my broken English, I would say, I want to be a professional soccer player. And honestly, some of the reaction of the players, they were kind of, it was kind of funny to them that for me, I didn't care about, college or anything. I wanted to be a pro soccer player. So my goal from that age, it was just, I have to make it. And that's the mindset I always had going into anything. And I believe, at the point where we met at ODP, I had previously, for 2 years in a row, I believe, or 3 years, I would get called up to the team, but I was never picked for the, final roster. And that's where you come in, when you came in, and you gave a fair chance to everybody. And the rest is history. The rest you could, talk about it too if you want. But, that was just amazing for me as a player, as a young kid, to understand the value of you work hard, you put in your effort, and you will be rewarded. And politics doesn't matter, who's who doesn't matter. It's about your work. It's about your effort you put in, and you work harder than everybody else. You will achieve it. Somebody will see you. Somebody will notice you. So it doesn't matter you're an immigrant or not. If you put in the work, if you put in the effort, if you work harder than everybody else, somebody will notice you. And you were that somebody that kickstarted that noticing. And and you know this on a personal level. I've always told you that, that the time we met and the time, we worked together as a coach and player, what that taught me at that point was more of, okay, you put in the work and you will be rewarded for it. And that was one of the biggest lessons for me. One of the many lessons that, I took with me, that, okay, if I put in the work, we're gonna, somebody will see me. So thank you.
You're most welcome. So it's interesting because you said you've been to the Olympic Development Program and, a couple of times you've gone out there, obviously felt you had done well and not get selected because there are politics in there. There are people that, get favoritism. That happens in all walks of life. How would you attest that those experiences of having to keep coming back and not getting selected built that resilience, that character, driving the dream? Was it more to, if it had to come easier, would you have built that same?
No, no, definitely not. And I could tell you this. And as you know, I used to, in the beginning, my dad used to make me wake up before school to, early morning trainings. And I remember, at those times, let's say if I was waking up at 6 a.m. to go run in the morning before school, every time I went to, let's say, an ODP or something happened that I didn't make it, I wasn't chosen. That following year, or going on from there, instead of waking up at 6 o'clock, I would wake up at 5:30, because I knew that if I woken up at 6 o'clock and it wasn't enough for me to make the team, that would make me, wake up 30 minutes before, just so I can add up to, my work. Or it was just a mental battle. And interesting thing, I always talk about it now, that waking up before school, and this is where my father's, work and the mindset, when he used to in the beginning force us to wake up in the morning before school. No kid wants to wake up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. But now I realize, honestly, that at that time, it wasn't like physically I was getting stronger, maybe a little bit, but you're a kid, you don't really understand that. But one thing I realized, that at the end of the week on a Saturday, when I got to the field, right, to a game, then I knew that before the game started, I had already outworked everybody. So before the game started, I was already up 1-0. So in the game, and this is your conscious mind, and this is your unconscious mind working together in tandem to tell you you've already outworked everybody. So go out there and have fun. And this is why in the games I would play with so much confidence, even at that young age. And I wouldn't fear anybody. So I think that's kind of that's how it worked for me.
I think it's so important for young players or those that are on a mission still to go to the professional level or achieve dreams. It's so important to understand that rejection is not no.
No,
Rejection is a lesson, that how much do you really want it and are you willing to put in the work? So I remember when you came into the Olympic program, and I said I was going to bring you in, and they were a little resistant because you weren't established. And I saw that raw talent. I saw the effort, and I made you the captain of the team because you had that passion and goals. And let's jump forward from that, because I know that you went from that, from the Southern California team to the West of America team, and then the national team was looking at you and all the other stuff. But you didn't want to go to college.
no,
You want
no.
to go pro. So tell us what happened leading up to the MLS draft.
So coming to America at that age and going to high school, and going through difficulties, language barrier, learning the language. So you don't really have the opportunity to go from 0 to 12th grade to have the academics, or to actually have the knowledge to stay in school and understand at that age, okay, how important school is. So my mindset, this is why I say I go back. I always went to, I have to make it pro. I have no other options. I have no other avenues. So that was, for me, that was one of the ways that would fuel me, that I have nothing else to fall back on, and that was one of my biggest, motivations, that, what, either I make it or I'm not going to make anything of my life. But with that mentality, and then coming of age basically at 16, 17, playing at club teams, playing Sunday leagues, playing men's leagues, playing every opportunity I would get. It's funny, we always remember with Razmik, and you've met Razmik, Razmik, he's the one that helped me out so much back in the day when I first came to the US, and he would drive me everywhere. As we were nothing to each other, but he just wanted to support me and help me. And now today, 25 years later, we work together in the same office, And he even reminded me that even when I was a pro at Kansas City, when I came back on vacation in off season, I went and played Sunday League at Arcadia League. And the people that were there, they know what that is, and it was just my dedication to play any opportunity I get, and that was my drive. So when it came time to either go to college or go pro, my mindset was I had a lot of scholarships offers from universities, great universities, especially, when I was 17 after high school. All this talk, with Charlton Athletic having come and watched me at Arcadia League. One of their scouts came and scouted me, and then Arsenal having shown interest when I was at Nike friendlies in Florida. So understanding that already, it was a decision that we made as a family that, what, I have the opportunity to turn pro now. I'm going to take it because that was my lifelong dream. Schooling, I could still do it as a professional, which MLS gives you the best opportunity to, turn pro and still do school online classes, which, so that was my mindset. That was my decision-making process that I have the opportunity to make it pro. I'm going to take it. And then that's where Patrick McCabe came in. My agent, he came in way before even the draft situation. He explained it to me. You have a good opportunity to be in the combine, and obviously Sharif played a huge role in getting coaches to come watch me and approve of a nobody to get into the MLS combine, because I was never in a big college, or a university, D1, D2, I was a nobody when I arrived at the hotel for the combine. And these were the guys that just previously played in the Olympics, with the under 23s, with Sasha and with Josie, and Kai Kamara was there. So all these guys were I was starstruck when I arrived at the hotel for the combine, but the rest is history after the combine.
Yeah, and just for those that aren't sure, the MLS, the Major League Soccer, they have a combine where the professional clubs come in. There's 180 players, something like that, that are, in
100, the best 100 players in the country, I think.
Okay, best 100 in the country, and they're put into a opportunity for the professional clubs to select those players. And as you're saying, you showed up as a nobody because you hadn't played in college, you hadn't been on the national team or playing the big leagues. Tell me what happened, because I actually remember it very well because I was watching it on TV. But tell me what happened, because obviously you got the first draft all the way through number 100.
Yeah.
What were you thinking sitting and waiting for it?
I'll tell you this. Okay, I'll tell you. Let's go from when I arrived at the hotel for the combine, and combine is about a week before the draft. And when I arrived, they thought I just walked in at the hotel, nobody. So, they gave me my room. I believe I was in a room with Mehdi Bellucci. He's a coach now. He was drafted by Salt Lake. And then the combine starts. So you're there for 3 days. Those 100 players are divided into 4 teams. And you're at the stadium playing 3 or 4 games, each team. And there's all the MLS teams that are sitting. Every club is sitting at the stadium. Only they're allowed there. They're sitting and they're deciding who they're picking in the draft. From what Patrick was telling me, that, obviously going into the combine, nobody knew who I was. So nobody was really, Galaxy at the time was interested because they had seen me, and Chivas USA had seen me with Bob Bradley. But after the first game or second game, Patrick was saying your stock rose because you did amazing, and then everybody started getting interested. So the following week after the combine finished, we flew to Philadelphia for the super draft. And I had my father, and Patrick was there, and then my cousins, Tigran and Arsen, they were all there. We were sitting at the draft, and the draft started. Chivas was number 1 pick. but Chivas was, they traded to number 5, and they had told Patrick that we'll get him at number 5. We can't technically take him at number 1 because, again, I was a nobody. So they traded at number 5, and then we're sitting there, we're waiting for Chivas USA. Bob Bradley loved me, he was very interested. And number 4, Kansas City, is on the clock, and I'm still talking to Patrick, or I don't remember who, to my father or my cousins. And then Don Garber goes up there, and I no expectation that it's Kansas City, and we're like, Patrick had never heard from Kansas City, no interest with Bob Gansler. So we didn't think I was gonna. And then Don Garber goes from Pasadena City College, Yura Movsisyan, and I'm still not even looking there. At that moment, there's a video of it, and I was surprised, like shocked. Kansas City, So I went up there like all nervous, giving a speech. And yeah, everything started from there when I got picked by Kansas City by Bob Gansler, and the journey started.
And that's the highest non-college drafted player in the history of the MLS.
Yes, U.S. history up until today.
Huge. And I have to throw this in. I know we've spoken about it, but for those people listening, Yura got up when they said, "How do you feel? Congratulations, number 4 draft." And you stood there and went, "It's just a stepping stone. I'm going to play in Europe." And that kind of, for me, emphasized your whole vision, that you weren't controlled by politics or trying to play the political game. You stood there and said, "I'm going to go to Europe."
Might have not been the smartest comment I made, when MLS just drafted me. But you're right. My mindset was just different. This is a stepping stone. I was very happy. And I remember my first interview, actually, when I went to Kansas City, and usually as a rookie, you're supposed to be a little quiet. You're supposed to, and I had 3 World Cup strikers ahead of me. It was Eddie Johnson, Davey, Arno, Scott Seeley, Ryan Poor, 3 of them were World Cup strikers. And my first interview, I remember saying, I'm coming in there to play, to start. And this was the 17, 18-year-old Yura that, was just fearless in everything. So, and then obviously I go in there and then understand how it works, you're a rookie. So, but, that was just, you learn off of your mistakes. And to me, it's always, my mindset is when you make a mistake and you learn from your mistake, it's not a mistake anymore. It's a life lesson. And I have a lot of life lessons in my life. I don't let the same mistake repeat, but as I want to get as many life lessons as possible. So that was a great experience.
So then you're at Kansas for 2 seasons?
A year and a half.
Year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half.
And then you get transferred, right?
I actually, my second year, my first year, I only had 10 games, I believe, never started. As I said, we had Eddie Johnson, who I loved, we had really great strikers, really, veteran strikers. And then second year came in, Bob Gansler left, and Kurt Donalfo took over, I remember. And again, I didn't start, or I maybe started a couple games, but I came off the bench and I had scored 5, 6, 7 goals as a sub. And at that point, I wanted to play. So I went into Peter Vermeer's office and I said, "Listen, please either trade me or I need to play." And we had an argument there, but basically, I won't go into details what that argument was, but a day later I got traded to Kansas City. And Aleko, actually, at that time, Jason Kreis had taken over as head coach of RSL, and he was a player. And then next day he became a coach. And I had spoken to Aleko, "Please get me out of here. If Jason's interested, if you guys are interested." So Aleko played an amazing amount of, role in bringing me to Salt Lake. And then once I got to Salt Lake, we had, we had a good team, but Jason was just putting the team together. bringing the core group of guys together. So the next year they brought in Kenny Duker, Scottish player, Dr. Goals. And that's another, funny story, because throughout the year, Kenny, I think at that time he had scored one goal in like a few games. And we used to joke, it's not Dr. Goals, it's just Dr. Goal for now until you get in. So he was an amazing lad. So yeah, second season we made the playoffs. I scored the last goal to get in. And then the third season is when we went all the way to MLS Cup and won it, which was an amazing feeling.
The only time in the club's history, right?
Yeah, to date.
And
Only.
who won the Golden Boot that year?
For my club, I did. For RSL, I had the Golden Boot, and this was me, 22 years old, and just barely. But before the MLS Cup season run, 6 months before that, I had signed in Denmark. So throughout the playoffs, I knew at the end of this season, at the end of the playoffs, I'm going to go to Europe already. So I signed a pre-contract in Europe. But I'm glad I stayed, because we were trying to get me to go in the summer, because Randers had just qualified for Europa League when I signed with them. So they were going to be in Europa League in the Danish Superliga, so they were doing amazing the previous year. That's why I signed with them. And then once I signed in the summer and their season started in Denmark, they had lost all their games almost. Their main striker had gotten injured. So while I was winning MLS Cup here, I was looking at my future club in Denmark. They were losing all the games. So they were in relegation zone. In January, when I went there, they were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 12, 14 points under the relegation zone. So yeah, won MLS Cup here, went there early on. I had some injury struggles. Met an amazing doctor there, Anders Felt, who since that moment that I went to Denmark, he was always with me. He's a muscle doctor. He's not a massage therapist, but he's a godly sent person that I met in Denmark. And then for about 10 years, he would always travel with me everywhere for the national teams. He would come to the US. He's come multiple times, and we became very close friend. So yeah, played in Denmark a year and scored good amount of goals. And then, and again, when I went to Denmark, I said it from the beginning, this is going to be a stepping stone for me. So just like I did, going into MLS, that was my mindset. And I knew as a player, to feel the validation, my mindset was always, I have to prove myself in Europe before I could say I achieved great heights as a pro soccer player. So, I was there in Denmark for a year, and then got a transfer to Russia, the highest transfer fee for Randers club history, and went to Krasnodar. And then from Krasnodar, I played there 2 years. In the same process, I told them I want to go to a bigger club, I have a beautiful relationship with Krasnodar. And there, they just last year, they won the Russian Premier League. Then went to Spartak for highest transfer fee at Krasnodar's history at that point.
So let's pause there a little bit, because you're jumping ahead, but people don't realize what you went through as far as the success. So here you go to Randers, who are getting relegated, and
Yes.
you jumped over this because I know it's just part of your story, but you scored a bunch of goals and you helped them not just do better, but they survived and stayed in the top division in Denmark with your goals.
Not just that, we made Europa League with the commissioner's pick, or the UEFA president's pick, just because of that remarkable comeback story of Randers. They UEFA president or FIFA president awarded us a Europa League qualification slot because of the remarkable story of where we were and where we got to.
And then you left.
and then I left.
Which, if you look at it, I know that going from an MLS club into Europe was rarely ever done by
At that,
anybody.
yeah,
At that
at that,
point, if you
at
go
that
there,
point,
then you become the highest transfer value for Randers. Then you go
yes,
to Krasnodar for 2 seasons, have two great seasons there,
yeah. I was
and
top
get
scorer of
told,
Russian league at that point when I transferred to Spartak.
and then Spartak come in, and then Krasnodar get the highest transfer fee they'd ever received for you. And this is a kid who came to America at 12 with
Yeah,
not knowing the language, not having a team, not having the contacts into the higher level or any level of football. And
yes.
now you've had this success, which is huge. For people that are listening, may not know so much about Spartak Moscow, but I think you informed me they're the 19th largest club in the world.
At that point, they were the 17th largest club in the world. Things have changed, obviously, with everything in Russia, but at that point, they were the 17th largest club in the world. So
And,
big club.
and there you did great as well.
Yeah, yeah. Spartak, first season was good, really good. I started with the hat trick first game, which was never been done in Russian Premier League history. And yeah, the second season was pretty good. And then towards the end of my third season, we had coaches change and everything just went, basically downhill from there. And then, something that is very important, for my career was that all the injuries I had, I've had over 10, 12 surgeries on my right knee only. And this is while I'm playing in every off season, coming back here with Dr. Mendelbaum, doing my surgeries, at a point it had become a joke where they would call me from the doctor's office and tell me, "Hey, Yura, you're coming in. Should we schedule your surgery in your off season?" So um, it was always that fighting mentality, but also hurting myself more, but making sure I'm on the field to perform. So that was very that's my story basically.
Well, let's come back to Spartak in a moment. But at what point did you start playing for the Armenian national team?
So when I went to Denmark and ever since I turned pro, Armenia had shown interest for me to play. So for 4 years, while I was playing in MLS, they had showed a lot of interest for me to go. But as a person, I didn't want to just go because at that time I had the opportunity to play for the US as well. And for the 2010 World Cup, with Bob Bradley, the coach, he wanted me to play as well. So like I know Patrick was, in talks with them. But when I went to Denmark, I just made a decision. I said, you know what? As an Armenian, although US is my home, but Armenia is it's motherland for me. So for me, in 2010, as already an established, a European established player, is when I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to play for Armenia, for my national team, for the national team of Armenia. And the reason why I didn't go for 4 years before that, because you know me, Dan, the type of person I am, is that if I'm going to go in, then I have to make a difference. I have to for sure make a difference. And I knew as a player, I wasn't confident enough to be the decisive player that, I wanted to be. So that's why I, when I was ready, when I knew I was ready. And the way I knew it is when I went to Denmark and I played in Europe and I started scoring goals in Europe. So that gave me my confidence to say, okay, you know what, now it's time for me to, make the next step.
There was some controversy, though, from the point of view that the US really wanted you as a player.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about how that went down, because I know they were fighting for you.
So before the 2010 World Cup, the Africa World Cup, there was a lot of interest from the national team, U.S. national team. I know Bob Bradley really loved me, really liked me a lot, and so before the World Cup, they were trying to get me to get my citizenship, U.S. citizenship, so I could play. And before we got to find out the results of whether I can become a U.S. citizen at that time or not, I decided I'm going to play for Armenia. So I made my decision. I told Patrick, I said, Pat, I can't, I have to play for Armenia because to me, if I could give this much to Armenia and get better Armenian football by this much, then I'd rather do that. Because the U.S. had a lot of players, at that time. Robbie Finley went to the World Cup. We were playing together in Salt Lake, so Robbie went to the World Cup. And U.S. had plenty of players. Armenia didn't. So that was the decision-making process for me because I made a decision with my heart, and not really thinking about myself first, because I knew if I played for the U.S., I would have more success as Yura Movsisyan. I would be playing at a bigger stage. But I also knew deep inside, I listened to the voice inside of me to understand, okay, you know what? It's better for me to play Armenia, for Armenia because, look what we achieved. Let me put it this way. Although we didn't qualify, but to give a small country like Armenia the hope and the joy that we gave with our team at that point was all worth it for me.
So I can say this because you haven't said it yet. The Armenian national team, when you were playing, Mkhitaryan was there, Minoyan was there, other players at the time, was the greatest Armenian national team that's ever been. Am I correct saying that?
We've had a greater national team back in 1973 with Arat, but not national team. This was a club team at that time. But this was back in Soviet Union as a club team. But as a national team, as an independent country, yes, I think we were ranked number 30 in the world at one point with me, Mkhitaryan, Manoyan, and, Aras, Ozbilis, Gevorg Ghazaryan, and I can name all the players. Mokoyan, Arzumanyan, with the team we had, with Berezovsky as our goalkeeper, legendary Berezovsky. So that was an amazing team, and it was a fearless team, And Armenia actually played today, before we got on the call against Ireland, and I believe it was 14 years ago that I was on the same field, and same outcome, unfortunately. But yeah, it was an amazing experience to have done everything.
Was that the greatest team you played on as far as unity because you were all so together?
That, yes. So the Armenian national team is just a different atmosphere, I can tell you. National team, we got to understand, and you know this. National team, being on a national team, you're playing for more than just money. You're not working. National team, you're representing every single Armenian that is around the world. You're playing for national pride. We had a great unity with Salt Lake City when we won MLS Cup. We had amazing players, amazing group. So that was at a club level, but at the national team level, it's just a different, mindset. Different. You're playing. You're not getting paid. You're not playing for money. You're there as a family playing for pride. And that means a lot more than just any number or any amount of money.
What was it like in the dressing room before a game? Like, I know you played against Portugal, correct?
Yes, we played against Portugal. We played against Italy, Denmark, played against, some of the best teams in the world, France. And it's a different atmosphere. Honestly, it's not just another day at the office. But it's, you only get together for a week or two, and we all know we're not playing for money. We all know you're not working those days. Those days, you're playing for everybody, starting from your family, from your ancestors, from your, for your kids, everybody, every living Armenian human, you're playing for them, you're representing them. So that comes with responsibilities. That comes with, a nation's pride. So the atmosphere was always amazing. We were young and fearless. That was the key.
That's what interests me, though, from a coach's point of view, and I'm sure a listener's point of view, that word fearless. And you were young, like you said. I look back to Michael Owen when he scored that incredible goal against Argentina back in the World Cup because he was so young, he didn't know he shouldn't be able to do that. Because
Yeah,
I better be little bit more careful, or the chances are.
yeah,
Was Italy the biggest game you played?
yeah, yeah. Italy, it's interesting because before the Italy game, and mind you, Italy was just world champions a couple years, 2, 3 years before that. So when we played Italy, we went into that game not caring who we're playing. My father used to always tell me, "You're a man, he's a man. Can you beat him? Beat him. If you can't beat him, don't make any other excuses." So my mindset was always that, he's a human just like me. He's got 2 arms, 2 legs, bigger, shorter, doesn't matter. He's just as human. You guys both bleed the same. So don't make any excuses. So that mindset of our team at that time was fearless. We were young, we were fearless, we were enjoying it. We were having fun on the field. With all that, with the nation's expectations on your shoulders, when you're having fun, you're not really understanding at that time the gravity of what you're doing at that point. How many people every time Armenia won, the whole country was just celebrating for days, on the streets dancing. So at that point, you don't really understand the gravity of the achievement or the happiness you've given to people. But now when I retired, and now when I meet people and talk to them, and they always remember, now's when you understand the gravity of the difference you made, or the difference we made as a team, to provide that happiness, to provide that dopamine to people, and how important how important the sports is, how important soccer is, and how important, you as a person play in giving joy to millions of people around the world.
So going back to that Italy game,
Yeah.
before it began, was the dressing, because I always loved the dressing room atmosphere. Was it music? Was it pumping? Were people quiet? Were people, pumping each other up and going, come on, we got, what was the atmosphere? Because again, even though you're fearless, you still know you're playing the current reigning world champions.
Yes, yes.
And what was that? Yeah.
I could tell you, early on when I would go to the national team, I always wanted music in the locker room. And I've always had many fights with our coaches, like, that we need music in the locker room. And we would get it. A lot of times we would get it. Sometimes they would turn it off, but I would fight for it to get the music back on. But I remember at that point, the locker room, we were playing at the Napoli Stadium, and the locker rooms were underneath the ground, and the fans were up on top of us, and just 60, 70,000 people just cheering us, being in that one of those older locker rooms with the lights like clicking and stuff. That atmosphere was just like, it was very tense, but I remember my mindset was just like, listen, we don't have anything to lose here. We're playing the reigning world champions. They got everything to lose. Let's just go out there and enjoy ourselves. So that was our mentality going in there. It's like, and I'll tell you a funny story. The night before, I slept, and I had a really vivid, like, in my dream, I scored a goal against Italy the night before. So I woke up the next day, the day of the game. I woke up, and once I realized it was a dream, it ruined my day. Literally ruined my day. I was like, oh my God, imagine I had scored against Italy. Imagine, like, wow, scoring against world champions. The game starts 4 minutes into the game. I score a goal against Italy. And when you go back, and you guys could go back and look at my celebration of the goal, after I score a goal, for a moment, I'm just walking like this, and I'm trying to see if this was a dream or not. If this was, am I going to wake up from this dream again? And then the minute one of the players just jumps on my head, I realized, no, this was real. This is actually real. So, the the night before, my focus was I'm gonna score a goal. So that's why I envisioned kind of what was gonna happen. I knew I was gonna score. So like sometimes you gotta trust the process, but also you gotta see things happening. You gotta see yourself doing certain things in order for it to happen. So yeah, that's one of the cool parts where and I'll tell you this too. Okay, after the game, we had just tied Italy away 2-2 at the Napoli Stadium in Italy, and in their locker room, we weren't happy because we wanted to win. We're like, oh, we tied the game. But this was against Italy. Now is when we sit back and realize, okay, what we have done. But at that point, it was just, oh my God, like, gosh, we tied. So that's kind of the mindset we had back then.
It kind of sounds like a vision for your whole life. Like
Yes.
you see it and then you go get it, right? It's because
Yeah.
if you can think it, it's possible. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can't do that's not thinking. But there's something that made me smile because I know you well enough when you say, okay, we're playing Italy away, let's just go out and have fun. I know for you, fun is being your best.
Yeah.
It's a fight. It's not go out there and laugh and just enjoy the moment. It's like the fun is let's go compete. Let's
See,
go.
before games, I would tell the opposing defenders, I would shake their hand and I would tell them, "Hey, good luck," with this big smile, and they probably thought I was like a human rights activist or something, like telling him. And then the minute I would get a reaction from them, like, "Oh, thank you," I would tell them, "Listen, I'm gonna ruin your day today, just so you know. I'm gonna, with other words, you're gonna have a terrible day, buddy." So before the game even started, I would set my bar so high, and me, my word is everything to me. So I would put the pressure on myself to, I put the bar here, so I have to reach it. So I was putting more of a pressure on myself than nobody in this world could put more pressure on me than myself. So yeah, that was kind of my mindset. Is like I would piss him off. I did the same thing to Pepe with Portugal. Before the game, I did the same thing. I said, "Hey, buddy, good luck." And he thought he's like, "Oh, okay, okay." I was like, "I'm gonna ruin your day today, buddy." And then I went in and started the game. So like before the game, I made him like be like, at the highest level, 0.001% of your mental uh, loss or concentration plays a big role. So I knew that at this level, all I need to do is piss him off just a little bit, so they can forget their game plan and focus on hurting me, and it would work for me. So
Someone told me a funny story about Martin Skirtle from Liverpool.
yes,
Tell
yeah,
me that story.
it was amazing because so this was our second game for the national team in Armenia. We're playing Slovakia. They had just come back, I believe, from the World Cup. They had beaten Italy. So Marek Hamšík was on the team, Martin Škrtel. They had a good team. They just come back from the World Cup. So they come into Armenia. It's our second game of the qualifiers. The game starts, and me and Martin Škrtel are going at it like bad. He's hurting me. He's, all the nasty things you could think of. The way he's talking to me, he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" Looking at my back, "What's your name?" Like, and then he's like, "How much money you make?" All these like in-game like banter that's going back and forth. And I kept telling
Disrespect, ultimately. Just
disrespect. Yeah, just disrespect. But I kept telling him, "Martin," I go, "You're here, bro." I go, "I'm here." I'm like, "Nobody." I'm like, "Relax, just play your game." I'm like, "The only thing I will tell you, Martin, is you're gonna see me from my back. That's all I could tell you." And then like 10, 15 minutes passes by, and I'm on a breakaway. He's behind me, and I score a goal. And I was like, "I told you, all you're gonna see is my back." So throughout that, we won that game 3-1 in Armenia, and it's a battle. My legs are broken bones. Skin is off. He comes in, nasty, just dirty. And then 2 months, 3 months later, we're going to Slovakia to play in Slovakia. We had just beaten them 3-1 in Armenia, and this is that booming stage of our national team. This is the first three, four qualifiers that were just, beating teams. We came out of nowhere. In Slovakia, before the game, we read their comments. Oh, Armenia, we don't even know their players. We don't even know where Armenia is on the map, pre-game. Their players are giving interviews like, you guys are just in Armenia and we just whooped you. So, game starts and I'm thinking we're going the same way, same thing, fighting with Skrtel. Game starts, not one word from Martin to me, not one word. He's still killing me. He's still going after me. He's still hurting me. He's still playing dirty. He's still playing, like he does, but not one word. He does not want to talk to me. That was a sign of respect. But he's not talking. Second half starts 0-0. Second half starts, I score 1-0. So we ended up winning the game 4-0 in Slovakia, which is crazy. Game ends, they run off the field, and we're in the locker room celebrating. And then, and I'm sitting behind the door, and Martin Skrtel, he comes into our locker room, opens the door. He's like, "Where's Movsisyan?" And he walked into like 40 Armenians. What do you think is going to happen? We're thinking, and Martin at that time, tattoos were not very common. Martin, bald head, tatted up, whole body.
Big guy too. I mean,
big guy. He comes in, he's like, "Where's Movsisyan?" Into our locker room. So all the guys are getting ready to, fight with them. And then I jump and I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Come here. I want to change jerseys with you." He's like, "You earn my respect." He gave me his jersey. I gave him my jersey, and then we walked outside. He gave me a hug. He's like, "You earn my respect." He's like, "I hope to play against you in the Premier League one day. You deserve it. You literally earn my respect." So those are some of the, stories, like even with Pepe, when we played against Portugal in Portugal, we lost 1-0 after the game. Pepe was the one that asked to change jerseys with me. And, and I have never asked for defenders to change jerseys with me. And I knew with my game, I would earn the respect for them to want to change jerseys with me. And so that was an amazing, to me, that's the gratifications, that I know I got from being who I am. People can have their opinions. I could have done more, but I could have done less. God had this much planned for me, and I achieved it. No more, no less. We all have our paths. We all make our mistakes. We all correct them, don't correct them. But at the same time, this was how much of that, God had planned for me, which I'm, forever grateful. And yeah, amazing, path.
we're jumping on that so I want to go back to Spartak and back to Armenia, but Skrtel saying he hoped to play against you in the English Premier League. Now, I know some of the English Premier League teams came in with an interest to buy you. Do you have any regrets about not playing there or getting to England? And which teams did you feel would be right for you?
Yes, I did have offers to go to England. At that time, I was at Spartak already. And, I remember having a conversation with the owner of Spartak. And at that moment, Russia was playing in Europe, everything, Champions League, everything, Europa League. And Bilic, if you remember Bilic, he was at West Ham. He was at Lokomotiv Moscow, and then he went to West Ham. West Ham or Aston Villa. No, West Ham
West Ham, it's West Ham, yeah.
And I know they made an offer to Spartak. And when I went to talk to the owner of Spartak, he said, "Listen, Yura," he said, "the offer is good, but our club is big club, and I want to keep my best players here. I'm not interested in selling you." So there were definitely offers from England, good amount of offers, a lot of interest. Tottenham was interested at back then, while I was at Spartak in Europe, and playing for the national team. You always, as a player, you always would hear they would write about this club, that club, Germany, so there was always interest. In terms of regret, okay, as I mentioned right before this, God had this much planned for me. what could have, would have, should have, I don't look at it that way. I look at it in a point of view of, I'm grateful for everything that I got to do. Could it have been more? Yes, but it could have already as well been less. So my mind my mindset is always, I'm happy with what I got. My mindset is always, I'm going to strive for the best. But I'm also somebody that, yes, I could have gone to England. I could have, but I don't look at it that way because, yeah, it would have been great, but you never know what could have happened. Plane go down on the way to England, for instance. It's happened before. So I'm blessed with everything I got, and I'm very happy and content with everything that I got to do, that I got to enjoy. Whether it was enough or not, that's just that's dreamland, But God had this much planned for me, and I'm very grateful for everything He let me enjoy.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful. And again, listening to your stories, I know this is, two stories out of tens of
oh
thousands
yeah,
you could have.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
So let's go back to Armenia, the Armenian genocide,
yes,
because it didn't hold any political power financially around the world. It was always ignored. And for people that don't understand about the Armenian genocide, tell us a little bit about it and then what it meant to you when it finally got recognized by the American administration.
yeah. I mean, as an Armenian in 1915, 1.6 million Armenians were killed by the Ottoman Turks. And, any Armenian, it's part of our history. It's a sad part of our history. A lot of our land was lost at that time, to the Ottoman Empire. But as a person, as an Armenian, a child growing up, you always hear about it. It's way of life for you. It's always you're in a mentality of, other genocides have happened and people have recognized it. Why not ours? Why? What is it that ours is different? All we want and wanted was recognition. So that's where our mindsets, Armenians. That's all we wanted. And then for many years, the U.S. had not officially recognized it or officially called it a genocide. But finally, 2 years ago, I believe, Joe Biden is the one that, finally recognized it. And in his um, in his speech on April 24th, every year, April 24th is the Genocide Memorial Day, Remembrance Day. And every year, every president, US president previously just, says, oh, it's a big massacre or this or that, never uses the word genocide. And finally, Joe Biden, 2 years ago, I believe, or 3 years ago, he actually, in his speech, he, called it a genocide. And that's all we wanted is recognition as Armenians, and because that's a big part of our history.
Mhm.
There's 3 million Armenians living in Armenia, but there's about 10, 12 million living outside of Armenia, like myself. So that's big. The genocide was one of the biggest reasons why we're all so scattered around the world. Um, so I think it's in our DNA. It was in our DNA to fight for something, um, fight for recognition, and all we wanted was just people accepting that has happened, that has happened, and recognizing it. So yeah, that's
I think it's also a respect for those that lost their lives, that it wasn't
exactly.
meaningless because of just being washed under. But I remember a story that you had told me a while ago about
Yeah,
a
the
president
White House.
that had
White House.
promised you that he would recognize. I think,
Yeah, so Barack Obama, before he was elected, he promised Armenians that he would recognize the genocide, and he hadn't since he was president. And then when I went to the White House, I asked the question. I said, "Listen, you promised us to recognize the genocide. What happened?" That was an opportunity for me, as I was speaking there, just to, throw it out there. And I was told, you're a soccer player, stick to soccer, don't get into politics. But this is something that, as I said, it was in my DNA that I had the opportunity to ask a simple question. You promised us, why aren't you delivering? You wanted our votes. We gave you our votes for that sole purpose, for you to keep your word. And then years later, at that time, Obama didn't recognize it, but Joe Biden did. So, and we all know the relationship between Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So I think it's very commendable that he, recognized it. Good for him. And yeah, we appreciate that. As I said, out of respect to all the people, 1.6 million souls is not just a number. Every single human, every single person, kids, women, and that deserves recognition. That deserves recognition just because all the souls are not lost. And they're gone, but their souls are alive. And the more we remember, the more we will remember, of them, about them, and we'll never forget.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Going back to Russia.
Yes.
You had, was it one Armenian teammate that was there that was on Spartak?
Yeah, Aras Osbilis.
And from what I remember reading, a Turkish coach came in and took over.
Yes.
And it was a tough time for both you and your Armenian teammate that didn't see why with the. How much do you think that was politically based? And was that the reason that you ended up leaving Spartak?
I left Spartak after the coach got fired. So 6 months afterwards. But, the day that Aras Osbilis was sent to the second team on April 24th, the day of the remembrance of the genocide, when I arrived at the facility and I found out that Aras has just been sent to the second team with no real reason given, that's when it kind of, I just went at the coach and, I was like, you're of Turkish descent and you understanding you have to understand, you have to have known, that day, what it meant for all of us. And then for you to send Aras, an Armenian to the second team, it's like, it's just not respectful and commandsful. So I went at the coach and we had an argument, big fight, and then everything just went south from there for the next 6 months about that. But at the end of that season, he got fired because they had given me a new contract and I was the main player, and then all of a sudden he starts not playing me. Whether it was political or not, that's he can answer that. But it just didn't sit well with me for him to have done that. And you've known me long time, you know me. I'm a person that I function with respect. I function with, you respect me, I'll show you the respect back, or I'll show you the respect, vice versa. And to me, your word means everything in this world. And for that situation to have happened to my closest friend and to my teammate on that day, it couldn't have been coincidences, so yeah, that's kind of the backstory about it. But he got fired at the end of that season, and we had another coach that it was, and I played for about 6 months after that, and I just said, listen, I got to get back to the U.S. I got to get back to MLS. Family, kids, they were getting older. Mariana was, alone there. It was difficult to raise two children at that time alone in a different country. So we just made the decision, and we parted ways with Spartak on a great, relationship and an open dialogue. and they allowed me to come back here on loan to Real Salt Lake, and and I did.
You kind of fell out of love with football for a while.
Yes.
And I know you had talked previously about the day you signed the biggest contract ever
Yes.
that was over there. And you showed me a picture of you, and you're on the field, slightly overweight, not in the best condition of your life, and you look miserable. There was no
Yes.
love and passion that you'd always had. And I remember Marvin Hagler said after he had lost to Sugar Ray Leonard, and he retired right after that fight. And they turned around and said, "Why are you retiring?" And a lot of people, including myself, thought he may have won it. And he said, "Do you know how hard it is to train when you're wearing silk pajamas?"
Yeah.
Do you think that your change now in passion and fire that you'd always had was because you'd achieved so much, or do you think it was more because of what had happened with the other coach coming in, with just not being happy, the family being separated? Where was the change? When did it come in?
Um, I think, and I can tell you this, then my mindset was always playing soccer, playing football, right? I always told myself, being a 17, 18-year-old professional, being an 18-year-old professional, having older guys play ahead of me uh, because of their name, but not showing results. As a kid at that time, I remember that if I get to a point, if I get to an age where, as you know, first you play for your name and then your name plays for you. You know that saying in soccer and football. And I always promised myself that if I get to a point where my name is going to play for me, but I'm not going to do anything that I haven't done before at the level I haven't done before, I'm going to leave the game because I'm not going to be in the way of another young Yura that is just coming up. That, I know that I could have continued playing. I could have still played for a long time, but I didn't want to be in the way of some young kid with fire in his eyes, and and having had the club or national team play me just because of my name, but be that player that is going to get in the way of somebody's future. So my mindset was always that. And then when I got to a point where I came back to MLS, it was amazing, going great. And then it got to a point where, Jeff Cassar left Salt Lake, and then, somebody else took over, and started falling, just didn't work together with Salt Lake, with Mike Pecky coming in. And at that point, I was just like, what, why should I put I've already done everything that I wanted to do, and the type of person I am is very, I'm very, my pride is number one. I go off of, my pride. To me, money doesn't play a role. To me, what's important is my name and my pride. So at that point, I was just fed up with everything. And then the last few years, I could tell you, I was playing games on pain pills, with all the surgeries and everything. So at that point, that was definitely playing a big part in my mental state, my mental health, being in a dark place, money never being a problem, but, just mental health at that point for me played a big part in my decisions. And I was just basically fed up, and I said, you know what, screw this. I'm done with it, because I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't, I wasn't there mentally 100%. And so that's why I just, I said, I'm done. I'm done, because my health, my mental health, my health is a lot more important to me than the contracts or the game or the anything. So I went through a very depressing period myself.
We'll come back. We'll come to that in a second because this is really, I know from our conversations, everything you've done has led to this, and it's a very exciting transition of life now to be as powerful as you are with a mission that you're on for others.
Yeah,
Because before, you lived that life for yourself, for your family, that then became for the fans, it became for Armenia, it became a pride. Now
yeah,
you're reaching people far beyond soccer. This is huge. But before we get onto that, when you finally retired, when you
yeah,
finally, announced you're gonna, that you were huge in Armenia. I know there were stories of the president asking for your endorsement so that he could win the election. We note there's a lot of things coming up now, which we can talk about,
yeah.
potentially working with Armenia, being the ambassador for Armenia for football in America. Some great things you're on. What was it like for you retiring from the national team, and what was the response from the Armenian fans?
Until today, when I watch the national team, online, and people always talk about, how we wish Yura was still playing because that's what we're missing, number nine. And it's in a sense, it's kind of sad that that we don't truly at this point have a real number nine or do the things that I was able to do. And I pray every day that we have that person step up. But it's nice that people still, remember, people still wish I was playing. But that response and that responsibility, that mindset, my mindset that I had, people are now understanding of the value that my mindset and my mentality brought to the team, to the teams I played on. So, and what I'm doing today in my work today is helping people get to have that mindset, that strong mindset, to understand that to play at the highest level. I always say the difference between a pro player and a non-pro player is that the pro players do the simple things perfectly. And in order for you to be able to do simple things perfectly, you need concentration, you need willpower, you need discipline, you need, dedication. It's so, you know, and I do that with my son today. He's 15 years old, and what I'm trying to teach him is, listen, be disciplined, be responsible. You've seen him. And be dedicated, and you could achieve anything you want. You know, but if you have those things, you will. The rest you could do. The rest you will learn. Technique you will learn. Tactics you will learn. There's a lot of things on the field that you will learn. As a 15-year-old, you don't know, but to have discipline, to have the commitment, dedication, those are things you have to train now. If you have those things, the rest will be easy for you. So part of my work today is mentoring the next generation, helping the next generation of youth be leaders, not be afraid of leading. Leaders make a lot of mistakes, but you have to not be afraid of mistakes. Anybody I talk to, I tell them, listen, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Make them, because that's an opportunity for you to learn. And a lot of kids today, or this generation, they're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of trying. They're afraid of being fearless. Oh, what's the punishment? The coach is going to punish. The parent is going to punish. It's interesting because I'm writing another book right now, parenting young athletes, and this one's almost finished. So these are all things that I'm trying to do with my mentorship program. What we're trying to do together, and you're a mentor of mine, so that is big help for me as well, to have my former coach be a good friend of mine that is going to also mentor me, because you mentored me back then. by the work ethic, by everything that you gave. So, now I'm basically trying to come up with ways of how to help the next generation. You're doing the same thing, your story, everything that you went through is also a learning lesson for me that I take. We always say we don't have to make the mistakes. We can learn from other people's mistakes, or we can learn from other people's experiences. And I'm a true believer in that. So I pay attention, I read, and I dedicate myself in learning other people's experiences so I can use that for myself. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing now to um, help kids, help the next generation build that strong character, build that strong, fearless character of don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to try. You won't succeed until you try. So, yeah.
I think some of that as well is there's such a diversity now of options in the world of which so many aren't real, but
Yeah.
because we see them, we believe them. And if we go back to your story and how you come, it's because you were passionate and you brought everything to that passion. And what I'm seeing now is that a lot of the opportunities are actually taking passion because when it gets tough, they'll jump onto something else or jump on something else because they haven't committed or even discovered who they really are or the purpose that they have.
Yes.
So I think when they can look at someone like yourself and say, you've lived it, you lived in their life, the dream of
Yes.
things they dream of. If, like you said, you can learn from other people's experience and trust them, because it all comes down to trust. I can listen to two different people with two different stories, and I'll
Yes.
probably follow the one of the person I trust. So honesty, integrity is huge.
Yes.
But once you stopped playing, and then you were back in America and coming back and living in California, you went through a tough time. I know you've
Yeah.
already talked about the pills that you're on just to play where clubs ascend. The most important thing is that you get on that field and perform for the money we're paying or paid you,
Yeah.
and your health was only relative while you were on the field.
Yeah.
So
It's
tell us about that.
yeah. I mean, when you're in it, right? When you're playing, you don't understand those things. You don't understand the effects, with all the surgeries, with all the pain pills, you get stuck on them, whether you want it or not. You're stuck on them. So after I retired, I found this amazing doctor here, Dr. Samvel Haidapedian, who's literally God sent. And, he helped me get through the difficult times, physically, mentally, psychologically, to I was reborn again. I went through difficult times, in early 2000, I was actually shot in front of my house, and the bullet grazed me here and here, and it missed me by that much. Not many people know this. So, and this was right about the time that I stopped playing. So at that time, it was COVID time, September 28, 2020. Um, so you go through these dark days, and I went through very dark days. I went through, really dark days, but thankfully got my family, my wife, my children, uh, that were there, and and helped me through everything that I went through. Helped me, my wife. She was God sent for me, literally God sent. Mariana was God sent for me, and she never lost trust in God's work. And the way I look at everything, the dark side of it, I had to go through that. And this is something that the Dr. Sam helped me with, was God wanted you to see this too, for a bigger purpose, for your mission, bigger mission in life. I truly believe that God put me on a mission to become Yura Movsisyan. Becoming Yura Movsisyan, the soccer player, is just a tool for me in my mission in life. And I truly believe my mission has started today, now, for what I have to do now, what I have to give back now. But making a name of myself with Yura Movsisyan, that was God's way of giving me a tool in my toolbox. But my true mission and my true work is today and what I do today. And that's why, I mentor young people. I work with people that recover from drugs. I work with drug rehabs, and young athletes. So, my work today, as is very diverse, meaning, I'm trying to do a few different things at the same time, because God gave me the opportunity to have had the experiences that I've had, to be able to understand, that I have, my mission is to help in any experiences that I've had, that I went through, to help the people that are going through it now, to be able to. And then also my work, with the Armenia football, one of my missions, one of my goals now is, and this is why I went to Armenia, was to, I'm ready to go to Armenia, move my family to Armenia, to help create Armenia's Premier League, professional league. And I'm also working towards that, to create a separate, professional league in Armenia, separate from the federation. And where I believe what I could do there is to help people to work together, to bring people to work together, and to hopefully one day have a domestic professional league that is going to build our national team, and put us in higher places in Europe, and give children better opportunities to have that experience of going from academy to all the way to play at the highest level possible. So these are some of the things I'm working on today, as you know. So yeah, and then wrote a book as well, Dust and Dreams, and this book as well. It's a fiction book of a kid in Armenia, all the playground battles. Yeah, pretty busy.
Yeah, I know, because just recently you were over in Armenia. I was following you on social media and seeing you on TV back on the field. I know Ronaldo was playing with Portugal against Armenia, and then you guys also beat Ireland, which was a huge result
Yes.
over there, which was huge. And and I could only imagine what the emotions were like for you standing on the field now as an interview. They're interviewing you before the game and seeing the players coming out, knowing it wasn't so long ago that you were there.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to bring up though, because on the pain pills, and this is why I believe you're working with people on addiction, you
Yeah.
went through that yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And not when you first start taking pain pills, it's not because you want to be addicted to a drug.
No,
You're
no, you're
doing it so
doing.
that you can get on and play. And we get this misnomer of people that are on drugs are druggies, as in, they're bad people, the perception, or you knew you shouldn't do it. But so many times we get fed the drug to solve a problem for the short term, not knowing that your body becomes addicted to it. It's the first go-to. And
Yes.
this is, I want to clarify this because you went through the recovery yourself,
Yes.
which threatened your family. I'm
Every
sure. I'm sure. There's no,
family, finances, everything. It would have, it ruins people's lives. But as I said, this is why I said, then, if not for my immediate family, for my wife and kids and everybody around me, I probably I wouldn't be sitting here. And I don't say this, very lightly, but it was because of that, because of their support. And this is something that people don't really recognize. It's a lot more common than we want to believe it is. Society today is pretty sick. Society today, I'm not even talking about athletes, just in society, just because everything, all these drugs are so accessible, It's so much more common. It's so much more, um, normal in a very scary sense that people are afraid of. What do they do? I work with a lot today. I work with people with the help of Dr. Sam. We work with people that um, call and ask those questions. What can we do? Our son, Dr. Sam, has this. He founded a rehab facility. It's called Leona Valley Recovery Center, and that's an amazing facility that I work with as well. And that facility is amazing because they're truly helping people. They're truly changing people's lives there. And as I said, Dr. Sam and me, today we work together in helping people to understand that, for families, it's not embarrassing. It's embarrassing if you know your child is struggling with addiction and you don't do anything about it, especially in my community. A lot of families are embarrassed to talk about their children going through addiction or going through the struggles. And this is why I feel like it's my duty to speak about my experience for them to understand that it happens to the best of us. So what I want to do, what we're trying to do today is, if you need help, don't think about your ego as a parent to not want to tell people so that people don't think about you in a certain way. No, do what's best for your child. Do what's best for your husband or wife or father or anybody, to help them get the help that's necessary. And then, but at the same time, for athletes, it's a lot more common. And for athletes, it's not so much, it's as well drugs, meaning pain pills, surgeries, but it's also mental health, the pressure of being a professional athlete. It's another beast of itself, and more so than others, other walks of lives. Being a professional athlete, that comes with immense amount of pressure, and that puts you in dark days. Injuries, surgeries, not being successful when you're trying, and that gets you in a mental state that is very scary for people. So my goal now in my work today is just sharing my experience. I don't want to tell them what to do. I don't tell them what to do. I just share my experience and tell them, listen, this is what I went through. This is what I've seen. This is how it felt. I could be in a room talking to 100 people, maybe everything that I'm saying, it could be useful to one person. That means I've achieved my goal. If I'm talking to thousands of people and if it helps one person, I've achieved my goal. So those are, some of the things that I feel the responsibility now to talk about, to voice it, and just to share my experience, the good and the bad. And, and people can make their own decisions.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I trained over 40 players that went to pro through my career as a coach. I put over 400 kids into Division One schools. But I saw a similar pressure on youth that don't have that mental strength to handle it by the parents. The
Yes.
parents are pushing the kids to have to be a success that puts the stress on them, not realizing what it's going to lead to down the road with the potential of depression, feeling of underachievement, not being able to handle college and soccer. It's so high intensity.
It's
Or the education for professional athletes to say, I still have a right to look after myself. If I'm going through the injury, I should be allowed the time to be able to heal, to get back on and not be enforced. How important is pre-education? Is there a place where could somebody go, to speak to you or to understand, or where do they go to get that education that it's not about achieving the goal, it's about living the life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they want to speak to me, they could go to my website and send us an email through yuramovsisyan.com or through social media as well. If they, parents, I do have a lot of parents that come and, speak to me about, how to plan for their children, how to do about, how to go about being a parent to an athlete child. This book, the Parenting Young Athletes, is coming out very soon. And this has a lot more of my experiences as being a parent of three different athlete kids, one boy, two girls, three different sports. And this is going to be my experiences of how to treat them, how different, boys and girls. My son Arman, he's 15, he plays soccer. My middle daughter Ida, she's 13, she plays volleyball. She just made a very good club team here, a high level team. And then my youngest Rita, she's 9, she's a gymnast. So me and my wife, we're it's three different sports, three different, mentality, three different time zones. So it's all my experiences. But one thing I've realized as a parent or a parent to athlete children is, especially for my son, because he's the oldest, I'm not forcing my son to play soccer. I'm not pushing my son to play soccer. What I want to do is I want to prepare him for life, to prepare, the fundamentals of, the fundamentals you need is, like I said, the commitment, all of these attributes, right? Commitment and, being respectful and dedication and fearless. That's what I want my kids to have. All three of them. The rest, what they choose to do, what sport they choose to do, they can go into any sports and they can have success in any sport, I believe. But those are the fundamentals. And I always, I don't put pressure on my son to play soccer because he already has pressure of being my son. So it's a fine line for me to not put pressure on him, but also to make him understand the amount of talent he has. He has no idea, honestly. And you've seen my son, Dan. You've seen him. He's taller than me now. He's big, and he's very good. It's just that drive. That drive, I can't instill that in him. It has to come from within himself. The will. Everybody wants to be a pro soccer player. Thierry Henry, and you know how that Thierry Henry was my favorite soccer player ever. And you actually gifted me one of his jersey number 77, autographed jersey of Thierry Henry 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, is when he became the highest goal scorer for Arsenal history at Highbury. You gifted me that jersey, and I still have that jersey at home. But Thierry Henry said in one interview, he said, if you want to be a pro soccer player, you have to love pain. If you don't love pain, being a pro athlete, forget it. Same thing, Kobe's mentality. I'm a big Kobe fan as well. That mentality of, if you have to love pain. You have to be okay with pain. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable. You have to be completely okay with, like I said, being uncomfortable, because all of those things need all of those, that's my job as a parent, to give him the opportunity to teach him those fundamentals, to teach him those, the core knowledge, or what it needs. From there, what they want to do, that's going to be up to them. I'm not a parent. A lot of, especially Armenian parents, one of the biggest mistakes they make is they want to fulfill their dream through their kids' life. And to me, that's very wrong, because you put so much pressure on the kid. You have to play, you have to play, you have to play, you have to become. That's what I tell parents today. Don't do that. Let your kid enjoy it. I always say, we can walk around any soccer field, anywhere in the, go around, walk around any park that there's a soccer game and there's kids playing. If the kids are not smiling, 99% of the time they're not smiling because of all the pressure of the coach screaming, wife screaming, mother screaming, father screaming, brother screaming, and then the kid and the toddler's just screaming because don't have the pacifier. You understand? It's madness. And then you want the 8-year-old child to what? Focus on what to do? No. If mother, father, grandpa, grandma, they're all screaming, the kid is just going to be lost. You're taking away that excitement out of the kid. So that's my biggest goal today, to be able to help parents, to understand, just be the parent, be the backbone, be the support system, be the driver, but don't force your dreams on your child that is not enjoying it. Have a conversation with your 11-year-old child. Ask him if he's enjoying it. Don't tell him he's enjoying it. Ask him if he's enjoying it. These are some of the things that I'm very I'm very, very direct, and I'm very specific about it, being a parent. I'll tell you this story with Arman, with my son. When Arman was 8 years old, we used to take him to practice. Grandpa used to take him. Everybody used to take him. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't having fun. One day I took him to the park and we're working and he's just like kicking the ball, he's 8 years old, 9 years old, he's just kicking. And then, so I brought him in, I sat him down and I started talking. I started digging into it, his mentality. I wanted to find out why he's not enjoying it, and then I dug so deep with him that he finally said, Papa, I'm playing not to disappoint you. So at 8 years old, he understood whose son he is, the pressure that came with it. And I'm a parent that never forced him to play, but the kid already was feeling pressure being my son. So he said, I'm not enjoying it. His grandpa and grandma took him to Americana at Brand in Glendale. And there's this little, what's it called? When you flip a coin into the water, and you make a wish.
Wishing well, yeah.
Wishing. So he flipped a coin and he made a wish, and then he had a little smirk. So the grandparents asked him, Arman, what did you wish for? This is at that time, 8 years old. And he started smirking, and they're like, what did you tell us? What did you wish for? He said, I wish there was no soccer in the world. So understanding that with my own son, that even though I don't put pressure on him, he felt the pressure of being my son. So that was a big lesson. I took him out of soccer. I said, my son, you don't have to play. I felt like the worst parent in the world to have not recognized that this guy, maybe soccer is not for him. That pressure, the societal pressure that was on him, that was a big learning lesson for me. So I took him out for about a year and a half, no soccer, nothing, you do whatever you want. A year and a half later, I took him to a Salt Lake game, and he was 11 years old at that time. Salt Lake Galaxy. I just took him with me. I didn't even tell him. I was like, you want to come to a game? He's like, yeah. So he came at the stadium while we were watching Salt Lake. He told me, Dad, I want to go back to soccer. But he told me he wanted to go back to soccer. And I told him, if you're sure, no problem. If you don't have to. So I had learned my lesson to make sure that he really wants it. That's why I took him back. So I think as a parent, we have to understand, we have to put our ego aside and learn with the child. Learn how to, the child, character, the child's emotions, the child's goals, what the child is going through at that point. And, I'm somebody that, do I make mistakes? A lot of them. Just ask my kids, they'll probably say yes, but this is the beauty of it. I'm not afraid to make the mistakes because I know I'm getting better as I'm learning as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I used to say to the parents on the sideline, sit back and watch your kid learn.
Yes.
During the game, it goes by so quickly. I mean, I was there at your apartment before the riches came in the day you brought Armand home.
Yes.
It was just your family. I was the only non-family member that was there. It was great to see him, and then seeing him now, 15 years later, over 15 years later, how tall he is, and great.
Yeah.
But look how quickly those 15 years went by, and people are so driven to push their kids for success today. And I would tell you, probably 98% of the ones that were best at 12 weren't playing by 16,
Yeah. I mean,
or they were just going through the motions.
yeah,
Whereas the ones
definitely.
that thrived were the ones that weren't the best at 11, 12, 13, but they grew into it because they had the passion and the work ethic. And they were always chasing the superstars. And then they become the superstar through the challenges. So fully agree with everything you're saying. Because if you're pushing the child, they'll never make it anyway. If anything, they'll
Yeah,
become less than they should.
definitely. No, I mean, for me, it's very, very, it's critical for me to understand that as a parent, the most difficult thing as a parent is to understand when you're wrong. That is the most difficult thing as a parent. But now, and my kids, they know I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. My ego is out the way here. This is about them. As parents, this is about them. So when I tell my kids, you tell me if I'm wrong. If you think this is wrong, give me an explanation why you think it's wrong. And if you want me to explain to you something, then I will explain to you once, twice, three times. It's okay. There's no number. Oh, I've told him three times. That's it. You're cut. No, no. This is teamwork. Teamwork. Me and my wife as well. I told my kids, no, this is all about teamwork. One day you're gonna make a mistake. The team has to cover for you. Another day I make a mistake. You need to cover for me. It's not. It's all about learning and getting better. I wasn't born a parent.
Mm.
Nobody is prepared. But at the same time, this is the beauty of it, that you learn to become how to become a better parent. And you only learn with mistakes and admitting your mistakes. And also, and I say, when I take my son to a soccer game, right? And I've done those mistakes as well. I don't sit there and coach him. The coach has to coach him. I always say the kid is supposed to have a good coach, a lovely coach, a coach that doesn't like him, a coach that hates him, a terrible coach, a good coach, because those are all different places in your brain that's gonna learn to do different things. Like different compartments in your brain that is gonna advance in how to deal with the good coach, how to deal with the bad coach, how to deal with the coach that doesn't know much, or a coach that knows everything.
Mm.
So that's sort of my mindset in letting him be, just be the support system.
I truly believe, because I knew you as a player, I knew you were right. You were anybody that didn't understand you was wrong
Yeah.
at that
Oh
point,
yeah.
and that was part of your drive. And to sit here today and hear you saying that you're not always right, nobody ever is,
No.
and I truly believe that came about because of you overcoming your own obstacles that you were driven to.
Yeah.
Things that
No.
you went to that we didn't even know. And suddenly you're at this crossroads of life. And
Yeah.
so I believe talking with you today, Yura, the greatest goal you've ever scored will never have the same effect on you as one life that's saved.
Oh, Dan, before I went through all these difficulties, I didn't truly understand how God works. I can tell you this, okay? We're Armenians, we're Christians. We know we're the first Christian nation, but the true meaning of how God works, and this is after meeting Dr. Sam, he truly instilled and explained to me how God works in words that, the simplest words possible. And, you know, that's when I realized that everything has a purpose. Everything in this life has a purpose. Everything happens for a reason. My experience is the great, the bad, the middle ones. Everything has a purpose. Now it's about understanding what the purposes was. Going through bad things, going through the difficulties, the negativity. Um, now I don't look at that as being punished by life. I look at that, okay, what was it for? Now I understand what that was for. Now I understand with the drugs, with the mental health, with everything, getting shot. Now I understand how God works. Now I understand, okay, I'm alive for a reason. Now I'm doing that reason. Now I'm tackling that reason, that purpose. Whether I succeed or not, only God knows. But believe me, in my mind, I will succeed because I know I'm doing this. I'm not just doing this because I want to, financially benefit myself. No, 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 no. I've seen everything already. I've seen the best of the best in this life. To me, what's more valuable is the people I hang out with, the people I work with, the people I interact with, and the joy I feel, the amount of time I spend with my family, with my kids, with, just truly trying to enjoy this life every single day. That's what matters to me. And also at the same time, use my past experiences, past, everything that has happened to better this world. And, to associate myself, my name, with people, companies that are trying to do the same, that are on the same path as bettering, getting people healthy, getting people, getting people's minds, healthy, and trying to better their lives. And that's what we're working on today. So
Huge journey. And if anybody's going to do it, I know you will, because I've never seen you not hit the target when you put your attention on it. It's great.
yes, thank
Last
you.
thing,
Yeah.
if you could share one message with the world, something you wanted for them to remember about you and the message you're sharing, what would that one thing be?
Uh, the the one message that I like to share, and the world is the world, but I want my kids to always remember, always. And this, anytime I have conversations with people or with brands we meet, I always tell them, if it's, I have to, whatever I'm doing today, I have to be able to answer to my children. If I can answer to my children that I did the right thing, then I don't have a problem with the world. So the biggest thing I want my children to know is that I'm they have to be fearless. They have to not be afraid of mistakes. They will make mistakes. I'm okay with that. But when you make a mistake and you learn from a mistake, it's not a mistake, it's a life lesson. So that's the biggest thing I want them to know, that when you make a mistake, you learn from it. It's not a mistake anymore. It's a life lesson. And so that's the biggest thing I want people to know. Also, just have a fearless mindset. Just have a fearless mindset to understand that we have one life to live. In live to the fullest, and enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the difficulties. This life is only interesting with the difficulties it comes with. That's the only time it was going to be. And the doctor always has the saying. He says, "Why is it that people, when things are great, right? When things are bad, everybody says, God, please, why is this bad? Why is this bad? Why is this bad? Why is it that when everything is great, why don't people say, God, why is everything good? Why do I have this? Why do I have that? Why is it that people do? You only remember God when it's bad?" So I want people to understand that, enjoy, appreciate what you have, be grateful for what you have. And whether it's this much or that much, if it's this much, work harder, you'll get this much. But be grateful for what you have, and if you put in your work, you will achieve everything. That's the
Yura,
message.
thanks so much. That's my longest interview ever. We were almost at 2 hours, but
Wow.
fascinating. Time flew. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your time, your experiences, your expertise with us all. And I look forward to inviting you back on here maybe, within the next year, 2 years to come back in and share how your mission's going. And we will drop in the links where people can find you to reach out. And I know you're going to continue to do great things. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me.
Thank you, Dan. And I want to say for your listeners and everybody watching, how big of an impact you had on my life, on my family's life. And, I want people to understand that who I am today as a soccer player, you played a big role. You played a big part in shaping my mindset, you know, with the amount of time we worked together as coach, player, having that relationship, and now having a relationship of being friends. I value that a lot. So I'd like to say thank you to you from, me, my family, my kids, everybody. Thank you for, being part of my journey, being part of my story. And yeah, I'll definitely be back when you invite me or if you invite me. So
It's my honor. Thank you so much. And love to Mariana and obviously Arman and Ida. Sorry, Ida. Got to say that right, Lois.
oh, she's going to get you. She's going to.
I said that just to, I know, sure. And then, of course, Rita as well. Beautiful family. And again, I'm really excited for your journey ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Say
Take,
hi to Vivian.
thank you.
All
Bye bye.
right.